Hi, and welcome to the Dell EMC Validated System for Virtualization Sales Training. My name is John Christensen, and I am Technical Marketing Lead for this offer. So, over the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to walk through what the offer is, the customer challenges, how we as Dell uniquely address those, and finally, how to work through a quote and sales motion. So let's start off with the customer. When we look at some of the challenges that customers have today, they look at an approach which is, very complex, pretty much done via silos of technology, compute, storage, networking, and often the process is very complex. This often leads to solutions which are not repeatable. There could be over-provisioning, low utilization. The class of service isn't right when they try and balance it across compute, storage, networking, and the whole process is very time consuming, lacking automation, and they often slow to respond to requests from the business requesting new services. So we started to address this with the Dell EMC Blueprint program for virtualization. You told us it was great, it was a game changer, helped you get to meet with customers and prove some of the value points from Dell. But you also told us that there were some challenges too. Architectures are fixed and rigid, discovery of office designing and sizing is complex. We need more to differentiate why Dell EMC. And we also need to simplify the customer experience when we're looking at a public cloud consumption model. How do we simplify on-premise infrastructure? Give customers, if you like, that big blue Dell EMC easy button. So when we look at the marketplace and where the Dell EMC Validated System of Virtualization fits in, we're kind of looking at two sides of a continuum. The first side is where customers want to, if you like, buy solutions. They're rigid in size and design, often with a price premium. And typically, the feedback we get from customers is, "Hey, what if I've wrong sized this, or if I don't see my needs meeting the infrastructure I've put in? In other words, I've got overcapacity for the investments that I've made for the company." On the other side, you've got customers who are saying, "Hey, I'm going to build this myself. I'm going to go across the whole of the marketplace. I'm going to look at all of the implementation guides, best practices, listen to all the services that folks have got to offer, and I'm going to come up with my unique design that's specific for me." But the risk is on the customer there to integrate all of those components and pieces together. So we see that there's room in the middle for a flexible, scalable, tested, validated solution driven by automation. And the key thing is there'll be a single vendor providing support, which is Dell EMC. And that's where we've introduced Dell EMC Validated System for Virtualization. So let's look at what it comprises of. So the key part of this solution, which we'll touch on as we go through, is flexibility in the design. So we look at all of the portfolio that we have to offer. We go up and down the hallways of Dell with our shopping cart, and we listen to the feedback from the field, from the product groups, and identify if you like, the best-selling products and options that we have that meet customer needs, and incorporate those into the program. So when we look at the compute options, today we're looking around FX2 architectures and R-series PowerEdge servers, Brocade as a SAN fabric, Dell networking for iSCSI or traditional LAN. We're also, from a storage choice perspective, looking at iSCSI storage with Compellent, Fiber Channel with Compellent, and also virtual SAN from VMware on the R730XD. The key thing is all of these components are added in with services, and when you go through the quoting experience through System Builder, it's an automated process that helps you build a complete solution for the customer, taking some of the complexity, the risk, and choice out of the system, and within 9 easy steps, we can quote a full infrastructure to a customer based on the choices that we've pre-made to simplify and take risk out. So when we look at why we've done it, I've mentioned flexibility. So the key thing is we got flexibility of choice. We're not telling a customer that they need to have a minimum entry of, say, 16 compute nodes and a large SAN fabric. A customer can start with the minimum of 3 hyperconverged nodes for a VMware Virtual SAN cluster, as an example. That's the entry point for a Dell EMC Validated System for virtualization. And they can grow and scale as they need. And they can complement it with other types of technologies to meet their application requirements or business requirements. So the key thing is that when we tie it all together, we're also looking at how we can save time from the quote to config all the way through to the build, the expand, and the ongoing management through the whole process. So we're looking to have unparalleled simplicity, and we leverage this through the ASM. So we also recognize that our customers, they kind of fall into 3 camps, if you will. There's customers out there who pride themselves on their capabilities from an infrastructure design and deployment. So for these DIY customers, they can take the output of the program, which at simple terms is a bill of materials, and they can buy that and deploy that themselves. If you like, they're the DIY customers. They've got the skills to do it themselves. We've also got the second class of, if you like, customer who are looking for a bit more help from us. They know what they need, they can size it, but maybe they don't have enough resources either in a location or they don't have enough resources full stop to deploy new infrastructure. So they're looking for Dell to come in and provide services to stand up the infrastructure and, if you like, hand over the keys. Now, for those customers who are looking at more of a infrastructure automation play or kind of like a infrastructure on demand, we've also got a third offer, which is where we'll be leveraging ASM too. But the key thing is that we're looking at where we offer services to complement these customer types. So if a customer is saying, hey, I want to buy new infrastructure, I've got VMware skills, I've got Dell hardware skills, I just need a bill of materials and I don't have the time to go and research everything, you've got the DIY customer, if you like, on the left, versus the customer on the far right who's, hey, look, we're an application house, or hey, I don't have time or people to kind of spin off, and I need some help to stand up the whole infrastructure to give us some breathing space. So this is kind of the continuum, and if you like, the game changer in how we're offering packaged services aligned to an outcome for the customer for the Dell EMC Validated Systems for virtualization. So let's have a quick look at the 2 services we mentioned. So the key thing here is, look at what we're including in the software integration tied SKU. So there's an assessment and design, vCenter implementation, vRealize log insight implementation, vRealize Operations Manager, knowledge transfer, and for those customers who are wanting to deploy VMware Virtual SAN, the implementation for that too. So that's part of that middle tier offering of integrate your system. To take it further into the automation of the infrastructure, this is where we also include ASM or Active System Manager, and we do the deployment of ASM, we do the infrastructure discovery, we work with the customer around lifecycle management, configuring all the pieces, and orientating the customer around how to define a template, consume a template, scaling, health monitoring, all things of that nature, which is part of ASM. So we talked about the customer challenges around infrastructure consumption and design. We looked at what the portfolio is and how the services aligned to that will help the adoption of these new infrastructures for customers. So let's look at now the design principles or what's within the architecture. First thing is you'll see that we're using a system builder to actually host all of the logic that we've built through this program. And the key thing here is that System Builder for us is a tool to surface all the goodness that we've done through engineering. So all of the configurations that are available through this program have been fully tested in our labs. and we've done some validation testing around performance, throughput, scalability, fault tolerance, high availability. We've done all those tests, so we know that everything that we offer or recommend as part of this program is going to fit the customer's needs. So as mentioned at the very beginning of this session, through these 9 steps and by asking questions of the customer, and you may already have most of these answers by working closely with your customer, you'll be able to size and identify an implementation for the customer. The key thing is at the end of this, it's tailored to the customer's needs based on the Dell portfolio. The output is ultimately going to be numerous things. We're going to have design guides, there's going to be diagrams, but also you'll be able to take the solution ID from System Builder and copy it into OSC, Dell GE for the countries listed at the bottom left of the slide, which is US, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, France, Germany, United Kingdom, China, Japan, India, New Zealand, and Australia. For countries outside of those, you can take the PDF bill of materials and manually enter those into the ordering systems. So we said about right sizing for a customer. What does that actually mean to a customer? So the key thing of our design criteria is, we're looking at how we balance an infrastructure, compute, storage, networking. Making sure that we're not oversizing the compute or any of the components like networking or storage to meet the business requirements of the customer. But we also want to make sure that the customer will be able to scale on an ongoing basis so they can add in infrastructure as they need it. We're also looking at how we can leverage and maximize management domain for customers. So the key thing here is, if I look at a customer requirement, they could start small, and then they can add in compute as they need it. So if they need more compute than the storage, so it kind of goes a little bit out of balance, but that's down to the customer's application. It may be CPU core centric. They may then need to add storage over time. Again, there's capacity within the infrastructure to be able to add in storage or compute or networking. So if that's, if you like, a scale unit, the customer could then say, hey, I need to buy another one, and they can add more scale units into the infrastructure. They don't have to buy a new management architecture or platform. They can integrate these scale units within the infrastructure that they've already bought. And because of the approach we've taken in the design principles around a management infrastructure and a resource infrastructure, we can scale those two things independently. So as I need more resource, I can add it. And if I want to increase my management infrastructure capabilities, I can add the infrastructure to that. I don't have to buy a new management infrastructure for every scale unit that I want to deploy into my environment. So what's the output? So if a customer says, hey, I'm really interested in this, what do they get as part of the offer? So here's an example of a VMware Virtual SAN deployment. This is an 8-node cluster using the R730XD. As I said, we have a dedicated management pod. That's going to be 3 R630s with a backup appliance. So all of the management functions run on that management pod, if you will. Now the customer can add additional functionality to that. So for example, if they want to host their Active Directory servers, they can add those in to the management pod. If they want to complement the VMware suite of software by adding in the vRealize suite, there's capacity to do that too. But as what is part of the offer, this is a great representation of what's available, which would be a resource domain, which is here made up of 8 R730XDs, and a management domain. And on the right, you can see the management infrastructure, which we would deploy as part of an implementation. We also have out-of-band networking, as well as a production network for those environments. One of the key differentiators for Dell is Active System Manager, or Dell ASM. And the key thing here is how I can stand up an infrastructure and basically deploy it in few steps. So I can design a template and I can consume that template many times. So I can design it once and reuse. So that's where we can start to see errors being reduced, or rapid automation from an infrastructure perspective by using Dell ESM for the discovery and the deployment of infrastructure services within a customer's environment. Added to that as well, we're also using Dell ESM as a tool and a mechanism for compliance around firmware and drivers from Dell. So we can interrogate the infrastructure, we can look at the firmware and driver levels, and we can remediate those. So we can attach a firmware stroke driver level to a template. We can then interrogate the services that have been deployed using that template, and then take remediation action of updating the firmware and the drivers. One of the cool things around this approach is that Dell ESM is cluster aware. So from a VMware environment perspective, when we tell ESM to go and update the firmware and drivers, it'll take a node, put it into maintenance mode, install the updates, and then if required, it'll reboot it. Once that node comes back, it'll move on to the next node. So we're not going to take down infrastructure or cause an outage by performing an update to the infrastructure. So again, we're looking at the full life cycle of an environment for deployment and ongoing management and compliance around firmware, drivers, things of that nature. So when we talk about the offer, its availability, we're going into directed availability, which starts now. We've got standardized services across the top 12 countries. For those outside of that, it's custom services engagement for the rest of the world. The design automation, as I touched on briefly, is available in the top 12. The key thing is that this offer is production ready and goes against your revenue recognition. What we're doing as part of the product group is having tight oversight of the initial deployments through this offer, just to make sure that we delight and exceed the customer's experience. Once we understand, if there's anything we need to, if you like, change or tune, then this will go into general availability. But the key thing is everything that's part of this offer is product ready, technologies, services, etc. So mentioned the sales process. So quote and order through System Builder. There'll be a 911 with the links coming out, so you'll be able to use that. You kind of start off with 3 choices. So is the customer a DIY customer? Do they want full system level experience? Full system level experience with ASM? A lot of our focus is around the full system level experience with ASM, because that's where we see our differentiation, where we see our uniqueness, where we can take and win against the competition like HPE and Cisco. And then basically System Builder will add the relevant SKUs for services into the bill of materials. Here's a quick slide on where to go for more information for regional contacts through the COC, product managers, technical marketing services, as well as the landing page for Sales Edge and Services Navigator. Thank you for your attention, and go out and sell. Thanks.